All right, welcome everybody. Minutes are in the chat. I'll share my screen. Let's see, here we go. Big question for today. Any skills that you might have that you might want to share? Like, I can juggle, if you didn't know that. Like that, like these could be kind of low-end skills, like juggling. There's anything that we might, like you're a rock climber. Oh, all right. Some musical skills. I love it.
Limited.
All right, so the A Team, just so you know, Claire, for like Americans, is this old weird like 1980s show. So I don't know if that's what you're talking about.
That is exactly what I'm talking about. It was literally the most popular show when I was learning the tin whistle.
All right, good. So we're on the same page. Oh, all right. Scientific names. I'm really bad at Latin. And so people always ask me the scientific. I'm a big gardener and I never know any of that. So is that something you learned in school, Richard? You can just nod. Or is it something you've taught yourself?
I mean, I took Latin in school.
All right.
I learned about scientific nomenclature for fun over the last year. It's
Mm,
slightly different. My mom used to pay me a quarter to go to well, she paid me a quarter to get the mail, and then later she paid me a quarter to memorize the scientific names of plants and animals.
all right. So you had
Um,
money motivated. Uh,
yeah, and my brain just never forgot that. It's just kind of, you know,
I had a whole one in school. I had a whole entomology class that was just based
that is
just
awesome.
on the whole phylogeny of of insects. It's a pretty cool class. All right. All right, cool. All right. Lance trumpet. Trumpet is really good. I played trumpet a long time ago. All right, so we will go ahead and get started. Claire, I didn't have anything on the agenda. I know you've been kind of leading a few things from prior discussions. You know what I mean? I don't know if there was anything that you wanted to put on for today that you wanted to talk about, but you certainly can.
I'm no my Wi-Fi seems to be a bit choppy, but no, unfortunately, I because of the UN event that's coming up, I have not even
It's no
thought about
problem.
this.
I just
So
wanted to
yeah,
just give you an opportunity there if there's
thank
anything
you.
you wanted to add. You bet. So on that note, obviously the open source week is next week. I'm not sure what day it starts. I would suspect a number of the folks on this call are going to be there. I just wanted to put it on the agenda. If I'm sure you probably talked about it in the UN meeting right before this one, but if there was anything that anybody wanted to talk about real quickly in terms of like a meetup or a birds of a feather session or workshops or whatever that you wanted to promote, um, please let's talk about that here in just this moment because I think, like I said, it's going to be a lot of people there.
Well, I can update that there is a side event on the Friday, and there is a curious chaos session with many participants in this panel, um, talking about academic open source. So we've got a panel on both research impact and educational impact. So we're hoping to be able to, but they're so short. I don't think we'll progress the conversation much, but we will be, of course, mentioning the CHAOSS working groups
Okay,
related to this. So just to let you know that. And I know
thank you.
David and Ruth are also involved in the SDG, the CHAOSS SDG working group. So they're all in the capacity building track from that. And we do hope to have outputs from it. So we'll hopefully have more information after the fact as well.
And did you say it's a panel? What is the
It's a
section?
panel. Yes, I will. I will put them in the notes. I'll put in the details in
Okay.
the notes here so that we'll have the details there.
Okay, thanks. Anything else that folks want to just bring up at the event? Present, I'm not going to be there. I did, just for what it's worth, I know that one of the comments from last year's event was there wasn't enough hallway conversation, that it was just really structured. Like there were just a lot of talks back to back to back. And kind of looking at the session this year, it looks like they've done a lot. They've really taken that feedback to heart and have a lot more space or workshop time or just kind of get together time. So that was really great to see.
Yeah, I was going to, I think that was particularly notable for the UN days. So I'm not sure. I wonder if I like Claire, what your thought is. It sounded like maybe the first day was still very plenary type, but then when they break into the smaller groups on the second day, that would give more opportunity. It was unclear to me how that was all going to kind of work together.
Yeah, my understanding is that that is exactly that there's the plenary sessions on the first day, but they have scheduled breaks this time, which I think there wasn't even any scheduled breaks
We
last
get
time.
coffee?
I believe so. I believe there may be refreshments. I don't know the detail of the UN headquarters. I know that
Having worked in a UN organization, I can totally see why there's no coffee. It's like that's just not how they're set up.
Yeah, so there is that, but I do know that there's more breakout sessions planned for the UN events as well, and then these side events I think have been put on in order to facilitate lots more kind of opportunities for people to get together in different ways. And I mean, I know David's, for example, planning to have a lot of interaction as well in the session around the UN SDGs, and then of course there's the hackathon and maintainathon and editathon and all these sort of things as well. So I think there's loads of opportunities for different people to get together around different topics this time around, not just in the UN building, which I think, as you say, is constrained in their ability to be flexible.
All right, well, that's great to hear. I look forward to hearing how that goes. So kind of bummed I won't make it. And then for those of you that don't have enough travel, the following week is Open Source Summit North America in Denver. I put a number of things that I had found on the list. Stephanie, it looks like UC Santa Cruz is representing.
Well, let me see. We have we have there's 3 of us there at least. I think, I can't remember if there's another one, another person presenting as well. So Juanita gets to talk about all the cool work she's doing. Emily has a talk with one of our other HBCU students.
Yep.
On her program, and then I'm pretending I know something by sitting in a panel with
I saw that
with Nithya and Saeed. So I was like, I don't know what I was saying, but okay.
That sounds pretty interesting. I think the idea, it sounded like the idea was about how, like, I'm guessing corporate OSPOs coming from Nithya's perspective and university OSPOs can kind of align work.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that. I have to say, I haven't had a chance to really talk to her, because it's created, it's listed as a BOF, but I think it's similar. Right. It's a BOF with a panel, which Lithia and I did at Member Summit, worked really well, because it's kind of, you start the conversation, but then it everything just goes to the whole group, and it's really cool. But so I'm not sure. I think that's how we're going to probably structure it.
Okay, just trying to foster conversation, less about doing stuff. That's cool. All right. Well, thanks for being there. I think that'll be great. Is anybody else going? Claire, are you going? No, I'm not going, Dave. Okay.
We're repeating the effort in August in Amsterdam, so we will be watching closely, Stephanie, for great examples to bring forward to that conversation.
I wasn't supposed to be necessarily on that panel, right? I remember we talked about it, but I think somebody else.
No, I think we got ETH Zurich.
Somebody actually in Europe.
Yeah.
You don't have to book your trip, Stephanie.
Well, I feel bad because I do actually want to see my relatives in Holland, but I don't necessarily want to see them in August right then. It's just not good timing for all the other stuff I have to do. But
all right, well, it should be interesting. Europe on an August event. We'll see how many people.
I know.
It's usually not a month.
It's towards the end of August, so people tend to start.
But maybe the holidays wrapping up a little bit.
Yeah, people are wrapping up their holidays.
All right, great. Any other comments? I just wanted to put these out front just because they're right in front of us right now. They're the next 2 weeks. And so were there any other things that people wanted to just bring up or anything with respect to the Open Source Week or Open Source Summit North America?
Is there a CHAOSScon at Open Source Summit North America, and might that be streamed by any chance the same
There
way?
is, and there's not. There's the first part of the day is going to be there's a data science event, and so it's just how to think about metrics from a data science perspective, and that's going to be at a local. I think it might be at UC Denver, and then in the afternoon is CHAOSScon, and then a social event. And I think we don't stream them. It's just so much effort.
Yeah.
Oh, and I think if it's associated with a Linux Foundation event, streaming is a little bit funny sometimes. I'll just put it that way.
But even if, oh, sorry.
No, it's okay. Go for it.
Well, I was just going to say, because I know that well, I mean, I think Sean was filming it last time or whatever. I mean, even if it's not streamed, but they're recorded, I know some of the sessions, they're great to have. So just to put it out there that if you, anything that's available after the fact would be helpful.
Fair, totally fair. Yes.
Do you have the schedule yet for the CHAOSScon? Because I need to go to the other one of the other side events that it's happening, but I was trying to figure out how to merge the two, and I leave on that afternoon, but
it's the day after.
Yeah. No, that's the day. So it's Thursday, right? Yeah. So
can you see my screen?
Wait, sorry. No, I think that's just me because I have okay, yeah. So you don't, yeah. So you have. I think I was trying to register and something weird happened. So maybe I just need to go back.
If you're. So here is the schedule.
Oh, here it is. Oh, yeah. No, I didn't see this. Okay, cool. Thank you. No,
I think maybe it just happened, like recently. We just
awesome. Yeah. I think I need to leave before Georg talks about Swiss cheese, but I think
okay.
I can see. I have to do the Open SSF Community Day as well for some research I'm doing. Okay. So I'm like, but I want to do this one as well. So I don't know.
Okay.
I'll try and figure it out.
That sounds great. And tell me or tell Elizabeth if you are having trouble.
Yeah. I think it was something through the Linux Foundation site when I was trying to register.
Oh, that wouldn't be
was more, and that may have just been a temporary thing.
Okay. Well, keep me posted. Okay. There you go. Right on. Great. So now any other all things open? Somebody just drop that in there.
Oh, yep, that was me. I know that it's in October, so it's a little further out than what we're talking about here, but I just saw the early registration popped. So it's $99 for the 2 or the 3 days. I can't remember how many days. And you get a t-shirt. So I just figured I'd bring that to attention now since the early bird is set.
A spaceman t-shirt typically.
Yeah. Last I get lots of compliments on last year, so it might be worth it.
Yeah, if you haven't been to All Things Open, I really like it. I've only been maybe just a handful, just a few times. But there's a lot of students from the area that show up at the event as well. And it's a real interesting mix, I find, of corporate and not corporate participants in open source. When we CHAOSS typically has a table there where we give away Legos. Or a Lego thing.
This year, I'm going to win the Legos some point this year. I put in every year.
To give it to you, Stephanie. So
I've been trying to bribe Elizabeth every day.
We would absolutely love to give it to you. So I promise you. All right, great. Actually, that's good to know. I don't think I saw that. All things open. All right, cool. Great. All right, a lot of events out there. All right, so I wanted to return a little bit just to get some feedback. I wasn't at the last meeting, and I think David and Stephanie had kind of led some conversations, I think, about the practitioner guide, about
Dude, David's laughing.
somebody did something because there are some notes.
I think we felt we went on our own little tangent, which was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I can bring the tangent back. So The hope is that we could talk a little bit about the practitioner guide or these expert guides. So these are templates that Dawn Foster has put together, and they're used pretty frequently in, at least on the corporate or open source side of things. And the intention here is to kind of start orienting people around a particular topic. And so one of the topics that I had put forward is trying to understand like research software impact, or the impact of the software that's created at a university. So something that has come up pretty regularly in this group. So the hope with these practitioner guides is to not say boil the ocean, where we have like 15, 20, 50 metrics that perfectly define how we understand, say, software impact, but maybe just a couple metrics that would be easy to ask people to track, that could start moving the needle in the right direction to better understand impact. See what I'm saying? So like, what are some of the really simple things that might move this question forward in a meaningful way? And so I had kind of put together these 3 primary metrics for no reason whatsoever, just kind of on my own mind, just to kind of seed the conversation. So if say a group here is like, those are all not great, I don't care, we can delete them all. So the hope is that we can have a couple 3 to 5 metrics that are already published in the CHAOSS project, that we wouldn't have to build new metrics necessarily. And that we could put them here and then actually try to think about how people could implement them and understand the data that could come from them. So yes, David.
So I was a little bit confused by this, and like looked at the metrics and had fun looking at different practitioner guides and trying to figure it out. And then I ran across this link that I just put in the chat. It looks like there's already been some work done on this, and I wasn't quite sure if you wanted to just go from here, or if you were going a new direction, or what.
So all right, so it's probably taking this, because I think a lot of this text that I used here, or that was sitting here, is actually in this reworked a little bit. So yes, they are very much related. The one that you're seeing here was one that was created quite a while ago, and Stephen Jacobs had kind of led the development of this metric. One of the things that this was pretty early in the CHAOSS project, and one of the things that we had kind of started to realize is this metric is actually a combination of a whole lot of metrics. So it itself was not necessarily a metric. And so the hope was, is to kind of take this and probably move it out of our metrics list and move it more towards a practitioner guide. So that hopefully that answers your question. They wouldn't both exist.
Gotcha. I did agree with those, data points to consider.
I saw that,
as
in
the key
the
metrics.
notes, that these are pretty good.
Yeah.
And so we can, and so you can also see in this metric that is called academic open source project impact, that none of these are actually linked to existing like atomic CHAOSS metrics, like age of an issue or response time. So typically our metrics are a little bit smaller chunks of data. At least that's where we kind of ended up. So the question would be kind of for this group is, is it some of these? Is it the 3 randos that I picked? Is it some other metric that could exist that would, again, just move this off 0? So yeah, Claire.
It was just a comment to say that from the previous conversations we've had, I think one of the challenges is thinking about what type of academic open source project we're talking about when we're trying to talk about the metrics and the impact.
Mhm.
So I really like the idea of maybe choosing one. I think we've gotten stuck in the past where we tried to do universal metrics, because some of these things, I can see what types of projects they might relate to, but there's others that they wouldn't. So I think maybe within the context of this one in particular, I think it would be really good to kind of put some description at the top to say, when we think about an academic open source project that has this goal, maybe, and that maybe, and be very specific about the goal of that project, not assuming it's the goal for everyone, and then talk about the metrics. I think that would be helpful.
So could you give me an example of kind of what's on your mind?
Yeah, so just even looking at, I hadn't seen that one. Thank you, David, for sharing that. I hadn't seen that original thing that Stephen Jacobs had talked about, but he mentions, for example, looking for tenure, for example, as a goal of the researcher that might be, but I know that if we're talking about, for example, impact within the context of SDGs, or the impact of the research, then the adoption by the people in that field of knowledge would be more important than something that directly kind of can be pointed at for tenure, if you know what I mean. So it's kind of like, what is the goal of what you're trying to optimize for? And this is also being prompted by a conversation I recently had with one of the Curious members, where they were saying that they feel that the value of their work is being particularly appreciated by the researchers that they're working with, who have a goal of having more sustainable projects over time, and having those projects be used by more people and contributed to by more people. But not all academic projects have that goal by any manner of means. So if you have that goal, then some of these, I'm sure, would be very useful.
Fair. Okay, that's a good point. So I guess I would turn to the folks on this call who are running university OSPOs. Like, is there a recurring impact question that you get asked, or you're asked to demonstrate, or seems to be one that is most important at your universities?
I would say that it's just for us to be justifying kind of why, I don't know why our existence, but it's a little bit of like showing impact is a huge reason why we exist here, at least UCSC. In the sense of like, how do we make sure that research is being is going beyond just the lab. So in that way, yeah, I think impact is trying to measure impact is actually a huge part of what we're trying to do.
So it's Claire, I do see your hand, and so I'm just going to follow up question with Stephanie. Is it about, when you say why we exist, did you mean the OSPO?
Yeah, sorry. One of the reasons for our for I think that the argument for having an OSPO is, one, to promote that impact, but also to show that impact. It's kind of this: is the impact, is the impact there or not? And if it is, and how do we show it? So, but then also increasing it at the same time. So I feel like up until we had kind of this OSPO, the concept of the OSPO, that it was all happening, but not a lot of focus was being put on it.
Okay.
And now creating the OSPO has, solidified around that impact, or trying to solidify around showing that impact.
Okay. Could I ask you, in this current moment, what are the things that you're looking at to show that?
I think we have a wide range, because it kind of depends on the type of project. But I think an easy one would be just like adoption. I mean, an easy one would be whatever a net metric you would use to measure adoption. So, how widely is it being used? I think it's a straightforward one. I don't want to say it's an easy one. It's a straightforward one. And then so adoption by, to what, and like the variability of those who are adopting it. So whether the community is varied, or is it like just one specific thing. So
okay, that's helpful, thank you. And Angela, I did see your comments in the chat too, so I'll capture those. Yeah, Claire.
I suppose just to add into that, so I think, you know, again, acknowledging Angela's and Stephanie's feedback there, but one I suppose another way we could approach this is that, because I know we have had this conversation before where we've gone at the university level looking at the impact for open scholarship and all the rest of it. So I suppose one thing that is circling around in my brain is the fact that if we didn't ask that question, and I'm not saying we shouldn't ask that question, but if at the first port of call we actually picked the particular scenario that might be closest to the same kind of goal that other projects may have, then you might be able to get quicker to a practitioner guide to meet those goals. So I suppose there's something in my head about the idea that if we did, for example, use the goal of, not the goal of what the university deems to be impactful, but the goal of what a researcher needs to, you know, what he thinks is impactful, or he or she thinks is impactful in the context of their open source project with regard to, for example, contributors and adoption. I mean, there are some overlap with what Stephanie was saying, but I'm just conscious that if we go to the broader set of goals for OSPOS, we're going to have the same very long list we had before, many of which don't map to existing CHAOSS metrics. But there are certain scenarios within that list that we already have identified that actually map a little bit closer. So it's just a kind of a nod to the fact that if we're trying to get to a practitioner guide quickly, we could constrain that conversation immediately. So sorry.
And so the constraint from listening to you was kind of from this researcher perspective.
Yeah, like a very specific project that we know has the same goals as a typical open source project. Like that would be a constraint that would then map immediately, right? Because it's so similar. Whereas we know that there are other goals, like for example, the commercialization or spin out goal that Angela mentioned, which is very different to many of the other types of goals that
Yep.
you know. So I think we'd be harder time getting a practitioner guide for that in the short term would be
The commercialization stuff.
Yeah.
But it may also, and David, I definitely see your hand. So it may also, Claire, to your point, at the researcher perspective, I think the hope is that these guides can be put in front of people, and being able to put them in front of researchers could be real helpful, just to kind of, from an education perspective, or like just seeding ideas on how to think about community health or impact in this case. I'm like, here's 3 metrics for all y'all to just kind of keep an eye on to help better understand impact. All right, cool. Yeah, David.
What I see from a research software engineering perspective, helping the researchers, the most thing I think is done in the university, and what the researchers care more for impact, I think is the reproducibility aspects. So like, because most of the software written in the university is kind of a one-off, and very little amount of those projects are kind of libraries that they are looking for adoption and looking for using, like creating community, where the big majority is having something there, and the only metric I see from those things is how reproducible, like the quality of those pieces of software that they are sharing on papers or on GitHub or whatever, that are actually that they work in someone else's machine essentially. And I don't know whether there's a metric of that. I know that there is some projects working on reproducibility, like ReproHacks, and another one that I saw recently, where they are kind of giving a number of that reproducibility, how like people attempted to run in the same thing and see how well they run, and then giving feedback to the author. But I don't know whether there's whether that could be a metric, or if that metric exists.
A little bit, like what would you be taking a look at? Is this
so
the researcher taking a look at?
So you're saying?
So explain what they would actually be taking a look at.
So in a ReproHack, as the one that I took part of, it like a couple of the times, authors of papers and that have put code with the papers, they ask, they voluntarily participate on those things and say, okay, here's my paper. I think it's very good. Like the code is very good and you can reproducible, like you can run it again anywhere else. And then in this repro hack, people go to groups and try to take that code that is in the paper and run it and see whether that actually runs. And most of the times it's not, because they forgot to put dependencies, and the dependencies that you get automatically are like, or they didn't pin the dependencies, so you get some other, like you cannot reproduce the plot that they put in the paper. And that is a reproducibility problem, right? Because they haven't specified well enough their software, or they haven't include, or they have forgotten a file, or they didn't include where the data was coming from. So that's kind of a, I think that's the bigger majority of cases that we have in the, at least in here in the UK.
An inability to reproduce the software, basically.
Yeah, like because they're like essentially like a paper for a, sorry, a code for a experiment piece of code for the paper they want to present, and that's it. And that probably goes in line with what the other metrics was saying. Like it's not used as that. There's not a metric of that, but that probably used on, oh, in my papers are reproducible, people will trust more about what I do, and then maybe I can get tenure later on, or or use that as a metric for that purpose.
Okay, no, that makes sense. Angela, you had put some things in the chat. I don't know if you want to take an opportunity to speak to them. I can also just copy them and put them here as thoughts.
Well, I 100% think that we probably want to do like we probably want to have discrete breakouts between research software impact and sort of like OSPO metrics and outcomes. So I think Claire had kind of originally said that, and I think that's accurate. For us, we do get asked about tenure. We do get asked about, faculty productivity metrics. We also get asked about commercialization. I think commercialization, the idea here is not necessarily that the project makes money, but that it's looking at the continuity of the project and the impact of it in a market setting. So it doesn't necessarily have to have like $1 billion valuation, but it does, the argument must be made that it has some impact. But we also look at this, or we're starting to look at this in terms of like researchers that package their software to empower other scientific communities. So we have researchers that are making these open source software bundles that just are used by other scientists, but they're portable in such a way that they can be used in other labs. So we do care about those when we're thinking about metrics for open source software. We also care about open scholarship at the University of Texas, or we do right now. We just got a new librarian. I am assuming his stance will be similar. A new librarian and a new provost. I'm assuming their stances will be similar, but there is an argument to be made just for a general impact of open source software in open scholarship. That's something we look at. And as an OSPO, all I care about is empowering my researchers, students, and faculty. So I think that would be another discrete issue. So that's what I said in the chat.
Okay, thank you. Angela, can I have a follow-up question? You had mentioned tenure. Is it people, faculty members or researchers coming to you and saying, can you help me figure out some metrics that I can put in my tenure case?
No, it's in our case, and I'm not speaking for everyone here. It's deans and people who are evaluating faculty asking us to help them understand how to read it when their faculty come to them and say, I produced this amazing open source thing. Here's its impact. They don't necessarily understand what a fork is, or where the if collaborations are good or bad, or they don't, so they ask us for help in understanding how to evaluate what their faculty submit to them, if their faculty submit things to them.
Okay.
And I don't know if that's true across other OSPOs. Because we sit pretty close to the provost and we work with several deans and research deans, so their context might be different.
Gotcha. Do you ever have faculty come to you and ask what they should look at?
I haven't yet. That
Okay.
doesn't mean I won't, but
Okay.
we have, so on our campus, James Howison is pretty vocal about this, and he's been an advocate for it, and I think faculty view him as the person to talk to if they
I
want to
see.
document their open source software productivity.
Okay, so he gives them some metric. I should talk to James. I need to know what he's telling them.
Yeah, yeah. I probably should too.
Well, because I think like if we could, these are the things, if we could capture something like that, and it like that would be, I think, a really good candidate for a guide like what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
Because then it would also potentially be real helpful, say in the UT OSPO, by being able to give such a guide to faculty members saying, hey, here's a kind of a common way or easy way to think about a few metrics that could be helpful. It could also be a document that is then shared with deans on the other hand, saying, here's what we've been telling people.
100%, we would do that. Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. We'd publish that on our website as a resource, and we would share it. I work with Jennifer Lyon Gardner, who's,
Okay.
regardless of provost or any other thing moving at the university, the stalwart in that office, and I'd be happy to share it with her as well. I think she'd be super
Okay.
interested, actually.
That would be great, because that was I think that's what a lot of these guides are about. They're trying to align what might otherwise be misaligned communication sometimes, or two different people who are talking about two different things. All right, cool.
Yeah.
Thank you for that, Angela.
On a side note, did
Yeah.
your son graduate?
No,
Or-
no. He's just going to be a junior next year, third year.
Okay, awesome, because I want to make sure you go to graduation because it's one of the most amazing things ever.
I've got 2 years.
Yeah, well, I'm putting it on, I'm flagging it now. You got to go. There are massive fireworks. I'm telling you, it is a major display.
Isn't it really hot?
It's hot, but so what? I have to wear wool in the hot. You can totally do it in shorts.
I've heard, rumor has it that you can like actually watch it streamed from indoor somewhere. So
You can watch it stream from indoors. I also have several of the videos because the fireworks and the way they do these amazing light shows, it's awesome. You've got to. What's your son's major? Sorry to totally take this offline.
no, he's MIS. He's in the Macomb School.
Okay, awesome. I taught at MIS for a long time.
Yep. So that's where he is. So I think he's just now getting into his major. So anyway.
Cool. Cool.
Yes, we have this in common. I need to connect when I'm down there next. So
Yeah, absolutely.
For
Because I'm
sure.
gonna take you. Yeah, there's some good places to go for breakfast tacos, and I owe you one, I believe.
or yeah, or afternoon beers or afternoon coffees or whatever. So
I know places for that too.
perfect. All right, cool. This is really a great conversation. Let's see, what any other kind of things that people have been thinking about while we've been talking through this, or things that have kind of crossed your mind? Richard, I'm looking at you because I know you've got something deep in your brain.
It's not that deep.
Am I correct? First of all,
I don't think it's relevant to this group, but like for me, impact means are you furthering the goals of the scientific experiment, right? Are we leading to people leading better lives as a whole? And are we leading to animals and the universe in general being a better place to be? That's A, ungrammatical, but B, not that useful for metrics. I think Claire actually pointed to what I was getting at more coherently, which is that you can't judge impact without figuring out what your parameters are and who you're judging impact for. So I don't know whether there is use to having that larger scope. I was thinking about that specifically in terms of another project I work with called Open Sustained Tech, which is like, what's the impact of your research software? How is it helping decarbonization efforts, right? I don't know what tracking that would look like, but it does raise a different question for these sorts of guides. You have to be really clear up front what the scoping mechanism is.
Totally fair.
And I'm not sure that's here at the moment.
So just a few just kind of quick comments on that. David, I see your hand as well. but Richard, we had a long time ago in the CHAOSS project talked about, we had like a social impact working group, kind of thinking about how these connections could be made at more of a larger kind of global scale. We really struggled with it a lot. The distance was really far for us. Not saying it can't be done. And I do think one of the most recent things that has kind of sprung up in the CHAOSS project is the connection with the UN SDGs, and thinking about how metrics can be used when thinking about those particular goals. So it's been a really nice conversation to see, and kind of bringing those two things a little bit closer together. So those are my 2 comments on that. Yeah, David.
So I sometimes I feel so weird talking.
What are you talking about?
I have like such a basic question. What is research software? And the reason I'm asking it is because I'm wondering, like something like Jupyter, is that research software? But then it becomes like a production system. Don't we want things to become like more mature so that they're not researchy? Or is researchy just mean it's an research software just mean it's an output from research? I don't know. Is this a dumb question, or maybe it relates to the Claire scoping question?
You made a lot of people smile, which probably means it's not a dumb question. So I'm not going to answer that first. So or try. Is there anybody else that would like to give a go at that one?
It's not a dumb question. It's also integral to figuring out this problem. There have been various groups that have tried to define research software, specifically Research Software Alliance. It's kind of in their mandate to figure out what that is. Otherwise, what are they doing? And so there have been some papers that have come out that have tried to figure out good definitions that are easy and pithy and that can be used to replicate, and make conversations like this easier. To my mind, those conversations haven't done the hard work of setting up like a website with like an H1 header saying this is what research software is, blah, 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 memorize this. And so it is still open. But the fact that you're still asking that shows that it's not a dumb question at all. Yeah.
Claire, you had put something in the chat. I don't know if that was from your own
No,
advice.
that's from the RISA website. So
Okay.
that's why. But I always get confused about this as to whether or not it is like, the kind of work that research software engineers. I always had it in my head that it was like empowering software that's broadly used. But I know that there's a definition which is any software that is part of a research output at all, any of it. In fact, I know that places like Stanford, in their open source research software directory, even include things like scripts for closed source software. And because as long as they're open and they're part of the open research output that is used to describe how they do the research, they include that.
But based on that definition, then research software is for researchers, not developed by researchers.
Both, I know Dan Katz kind of covers both of that. So he would say it's both software developed by researchers.
Here on the both. Here on the both.
Research software is also not contiguous with open source software. They're largely overlapped. The Venn diagram is pretty close, but it's not identical.
So maybe we should start with all that then, just to clarify what we're covering.
I think this is a good conversation. My mind has always been here on this, at least for this conversation, not getting rid of that, but just so y'all know where I was coming at it from.
Oh,
Go ahead,
we
Angela.
care far more about the doing research software
Okay.
aspect of it than the product part of it.
Okay.
Just because that's what we're training people to do. Like we're training people to develop software as part of scientific projects, right? And the software that they're developing as part of those scientific projects are helping science move forward and potentially the field move forward. So I popped the Barrick Lab produces a lot of software for integrated biology. Super important. It's also portable to other places, like integrations with robotics. Um, that is research software that is produced to help move research forward. But then I'll pop this in there too. We also work with the Brain IO lab, and that Brain IO lab it helps a scientific process, but it is a software within itself because it helps with like analysis of MRIs, and it can be used as a non-scientific process. It can be used as a medical entity, right? So these are two of the, like, I think both ways to look at research software.
Okay.
I'll get the Brain IO.
Okay. Yeah, Richard.
Product is a moving target. It's a changing field. So whether or not we cite software, whether or not we have it, so this definition is complex in itself, right? And it needs to be noted. And I think this kind of gets back to what I was trying to say earlier, Matt, which I'm not sure you understood. I wasn't arguing that we should sit here and argue, are we making the world better with this line of JavaScript? It's more when we have conversations like this, we have to leave space to talk about the leaky nature of our models, right? Of understanding how we think about things. And that just has to be in the guide that we're developing. So choosing this one is fine, but just giving a nod to the fact that these things are in fact not hermetically sealed
Totally fair.
abstractions is important.
Gotcha. Totally fair. Okay, this is great. I'm actually gonna try to wrangle this conversation down into a guide at some point that we're gonna share here. This is super helpful. As we wrap up here, David, I will just say your question about what is research software, it brought back memories of once when I was at Hewlett Packard presenting something, and I was using the phrase software package, and somebody stopped me and asked me what a software package was. And I couldn't, I think I froze. I didn't know how to answer the question, and I was using it pretty loosely, I'm afraid. So your point is real well taken. I appreciate that. All right. Great. We're gonna wrap it up here. Oh, I got the Brain IO, Angela, so thank you for that. I'll get that into these notes. So everybody have a great rest of the week. I really do appreciate the conversation. I think we're making good progress here. And have a great time in New York for those of you that are going. And honestly, if you're also going to go to Denver, have a great time there too. So enjoy your time, and thanks everybody. We'll see y'all soon.
Bye.
All right, take care.
Thank you.